Like most people, I'm a creature of habit. I hang up my towel in the same place every day after I shower. I come downstairs and I get a bowl of Rice Chex with a banana in a certain bowl. It's my cereal bowl after all. I make a coffee, I put a shot of cream in it, and I head off to work. And that's the way most of my days go. I can get dressed in the dark on Sunday mornings because I know exactly in the closet where my clothes are hanging. And 9 times out of 10, I can do that pretty accurately. I know where my socks are for work, I know where my shoes are, I can get ready, and I can slip out in the dark. I want to know what to expect. So I set up my life arranged and organized so that I don't have to have my expectations blown away every day. So I'm not disappointed or surprised too much. But here exactly lies our challenge. Our expectations and our predictability can be sometimes the very obstacle to the new life that God is calling us to live. And so we can have things predictable and we can have things organized and we can kind of know where everything is located. But sometimes God is calling us to go beyond those things. And this Sunday is one of those Sundays that God calls us to go beyond. Christ comes to create something new within us, a new life. He calls us out of our tombs and the places that we sort of have become entrenched so that we might be able to move into Him. The very stone that lies in front of our tomb needs to be rolled away. But unfortunately, that stone is the stone that gives us some sense of predictability and safety and security. And so we have kind of a dilemma. Do we come out into the newness that Christ is calling us into? Or do we stay safe and secure within the tombs that we have created? Resurrection is totally unexpected. It was to Mary and Martha, and certainly it must have been to Lazarus, right? As he was called out of the tomb. Resurrection is totally unexpected to us as well. This new life, this moving beyond our comfort zones. They expected Jesus to come to Lazarus' tomb and to console them and to be with them in their grief, maybe offer some kind words of support. Because staying dead is what dead people are expected to do. When you're dead for 4 days, there's no more life, right? And everybody knew that. And yet in Christ, there was life, even though there wasn't hope for new life. For Jesus to weep, to call out Lazarus' name, to say, roll the stone away from the tomb, allow the dead to walk again? I don't think so. Listen, if you believe in Jesus, if you feel comfortable with the formula and your expectations, if you know God's will and what God is trying to accomplish better than God knows it, then just go ahead, stick with that path. If you feel confident that you have it all figured out, if you like knowing where the clothes are in your closet so that you can get dressed in the dark and know that everything is fine in the world, then that's great. But sometimes, well, a virus comes along, doesn't it? Sometimes we're shaken out of our comfort zone. Sometimes we feel this grief and this loss and this anxiety and this fear. Those are the things that God speaks to. That's why He calls us out of our tombs into something that surprises us, where our expectations fall apart. Perhaps that is the stone that needs to be removed today. So new and unexpected life can burst out, so it can continue and be experienced. How often does God call us into new things in our life, and we respond in various ways by saying, keep the tomb closed. Don't roll the stone away. He's been dead for 4 days. It's going to smell, and I'm going to be embarrassed by all of this. So, What if faith was about recognizing that? What if faith was about recognizing that when something is not expected, when something doesn't fit into the formula of religion or faith and isn't 100% surprising, what if that's the place that God works best? What if faith is being able to step out of the tomb of our comfort zones and our expectations and the predictability we have set up and come into a place where God works best? Religion demands that we keep God in a box, under our control, under our understanding, under our choice. But today a stone is being rolled away from that box, and new life is spilling out all over the place. That was the excitement in today's gospel when Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead. And the gospel ends by saying, and there were some Jews who were there, some people who saw that, who came to realize who Jesus really was. But there were other Jews who went back and reported to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes and the religious leaders what Jesus was doing, because they would rather keep Jesus in a tomb. I'm guessing that that's the transition that's hard, isn't it? The transition from dark grave to the light of day. That's the transition that shocks us. That's the transition that makes us squint and say, it's too bright, it's too much, I can't handle this. Can you imagine how disorienting and how painful that light must have been for Lazarus? He's in his tomb, he's dead for 4 days. I think I'm stiff after waking up from a night's sleep. Can you imagine Lazarus coming out of the tomb? Holy smokes, he must have been stiff and hurting, and the light, and I'm hungry, and my breath is terrible, and I need a shower. That's what Jesus calls us into, the new life. And sometimes it's painful. But that's the thing about tombs. Sometimes we don't even know that we're in them. We end up defending our stance. We end up defending our comforts. We end up defending our expectations, but we don't even know really why we're defending them, and it's because we're stuck. We're stuck in a tomb, and we don't want to risk stepping out. We all have our tombs of comfort. Is there a big stone that needs to be rolled away from a part of your life? Is there a big stone that is covering a feeling that you used to feel when you were younger, but now you don't want to risk feeling that anymore because it's too risky? Is there a stone that is covering a love that you used to love, but you think, nope, I don't want to step out into that? If you leave that in your heart too long, if you stay in your tomb too long, you will begin to rot and stink and smell. And worse yet, you won't experience the blessing and the new life and the gift that God is giving to you. Well, having a God of the resurrection just blows apart our expectations. It means that the story is seldom over when we think the story is over. You know what makes me stumble out of my tomb into the bright light? It's when God surprises me through people like you. When I expect to receive hate, but instead receive love. That brings me out into the light of Christ. When I expect to receive condemnation, but instead receive grace. If you want to call somebody else out of their tomb and their comfortable expectations, give them something that surprises them, something that comes from God. When they expect to receive condemnation from you, give them grace and forgiveness and mercy. When I expect a fight, but receive kindness in return. When I expect to receive anger, but receive something that allows me to let go of my fears, I step out of my tomb. And so this is for all who have lived in a tomb. Today's message is not just for Lazarus to be called out, it's for you to be called out and for me to be called out. All who have lost faith, Jesus is calling you back. All who have walked away in sadness from God, God is calling you back. All who hold on to fears and anxieties and worries and grief during the coronavirus, God is calling you back. All people who hold on to grudges and bitterness and you just sort of have collapsed into yourself, God is calling you out of yourself. All who live in self-righteousness and pride and say it's I who have done it, not God, God is calling you back. Let us confess together today the surprise of the Lord's resurrection, the new life that comes to us over and over again through his mercy and forgiveness. Let's try really hard not to be completely blinded, shall we, by the light that shines as we leave our tombs this morning. Let's keep our eyes open to the new opportunities that God is laying in front of us each and every day. Yes, even during the coronavirus, God is inviting us into new things, new ways to serve people that we love, new ways to love people that we hate, new ways to be changed and to grow, new ways to be surprised. Amen.